What did you think when you learned yesterday that they were locked on RICO but had decided on 4 of the other charges? What did that mean to you?
Until I read the note, I wasn't feeling great. Once I read the note, I'll show you how deep in the weeds in reading the tea leaves. When I saw jurors, plural, opinions, plural, and unpersuadable, that convinced me that they had found him not guilty on the more serious charges. And why do I say that? Because I figured at that point, who, if they had voted guilty across the other 4, was going to fight for the RICO? I just didn't think that made any sense. And sure enough, that's exactly the way it turned out. Unpersuadable yesterday. After about an hour and a half this morning, they came back, and I will tell you, as a helicopter parent watching it, and you just saw Tenny, their force of nature that she is, I couldn't be happier for her, for my granddaughter that is in her womb, for the client for his daughters. You know, I met with him. I won't talk about what we said, but we both shed a tear or two over our respective daughters today.
Tough spot for his daughters, that's for sure. Not because of what their criminality is, but because of what the underlying behavior was. You and I have talked on TV and off TV about what bothered us about this case. Regardless of your daughter's involvement, it's that it seemed like they were they wanted him. They wanted him. That search proved that they wanted him, and that they were trying to build a case around him because they didn't like the video that none of us likes. And no one should like that video, and he shouldn't have lied about it. But none of that is what a federal case is supposed to be about. Do you believe that this jury was making that statement, and you think we'll hear that from them when they speak?
Well, I won't even venture to predict what a juror will say. I will say that clearly the jurors had seen through this. You know, one of the interesting things as I was sitting here in New York is the presentation by the prosecution, and I've been excoriated for my labeling of the prosecutors in this case, and I don't want to go there. But there was some pearl clutching here, and it seemed like the kind of the morality police to me. It just made no sense. Then this weekend, I was walking from the office to where I stay, which is about 1.5 miles, but it took me about 3 or 4 hours because of the Pride Parade. And one of the great things about New York City on the Pride Sunday is this kind of celebratory Mardi Gras festival-like atmosphere. And it struck me then, as I was in that teeming mass of humanity for 3 or 4 hours, this is probably the last place on earth, maybe LA is number 2, where you're going to start talking about what people are doing in their hotel rooms and consensually and having threesomes and things of that nature. It just seemed to me to be kind of tone deaf, if you will, and really kind of a characterization of and a misuse of resources federally.
Yeah.
And to the defense of the current administration here in the Southern District, this case was brought under a previous U.S. attorney, not the current U.S. attorney. He got the cards he was dealt, and so I get that, and so no. From the client's standpoint, doesn't really matter, but give the current administration credit. They called it out early on when they were talking about Mayor Adams, and they specifically mentioned this case as well as being kind of an ill-conceived, ill-brought case.
So the Mann Act is real, as modified in 1986, and there is a healthy sentence that can be nailed for each count. What is your concern about what the sentence will be for basically him paying prostitutes to do what they had chosen to do?
Well, look, the Mann Act, for those who don't remember, I think most famously was brought against the heavyweight boxer African-American who had a white girlfriend over 100 years ago.
Johnson.
For a white woman. Then famously against Chuck Berry, and most recently against R. Kelly. But at least with R. Kelly, the allegation was minors.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.